All right. Welcome to the Lion Counseling Podcast. Our mission is to help men obtain success, purpose, happiness, and peace in their career and in their personal lives. If you're checking it out today, we're going to talk about motivation. Motivation. So stick around and we're going to dive in.
Escape the cage now. Be the lion you was destined to be. Born ready for the war, now my effort is free. The level's been set, time to wrestle the beast. Testing my G, it's getting heavy indeed. The struggle I embrace now, never retreat. I see the test as a blessing indeed. I'm taking steps on the treacherous peak. Now it's destined to be. I'm on my destiny's feet. Shine with the one piece.
I'm Mark Godlin, founder of Lion Counseling, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified EMDR therapist. And we're just passionate about helping guys and their families to have better lives. And I'm happy to be joined by Zach Carter, fellow Lion here at Lion Counseling. Zach, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and we'll kick it off.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, everybody. I'm Zach. I am a counselor here at Lion. I mainly practice cognitive behavioral therapy. I've also got a lot of experience. I've been helping guys for a long time around the area of pornography addiction. So help guys with a lot of different issues, but that was one issue that was a big passion of mine to help guys with. And so if you're hearing this for the first time, thanks for joining us. And if you're looking for help, we just want to remind you that you can go to our website or in the description, in the link in the description box. And reach out if you're needing some help. You're looking for some ways that we can help you obtain the things that you want in your life. So Mark, thanks for introducing me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So motivation. All right. Put you on the spot here, Zach.
Please.
So let's just pretend that I'm a 45-year-old bald man.
I'm going to pretend that. Okay.
You have to pretend.
Okay.
No.
Right.
And say I'm pretty successful in business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rocking it there, but my stress has been high. And I'm kind of hitting this wall, right? I'm feeling the stress. The marriage is suffering a little bit. I'm not coping very well. And I'm struggling, honestly. I won't tell anyone except maybe my one buddy, but I'm struggling to find the fire when it comes to the relationship, when it comes to the business. I feel unproductive. I feel really unproductive. I feel unmotivated. And by the way, I'm really skeptical of therapy. I'm just convinced that it's all just weak emotional stuff. Psycho mumbo jumbo. I'd rather just listen to Jocko and
Jocko Willink.
But okay, that's me. I'm your client.
That's you.
It's hard to pretend.
I'm glad you gave me an easy one. So thanks for that. One, sounds overwhelming, right? A lot going on. I guess the funny thing is that like you, I was also hesitant on the emotional mumbo jumbo. Even in my master's program, they would bring it up as a counselor. They're like, let's talk emotions. I'm like, do we have to?
Right.
But if you actually look at the word emotion, right? To motion, like to get into motion, right? That's literally what emotion is. So I think first off, I would want to start with motivation around like, how do we get you into motion, right? And a lot of guys, their eyes glaze over when you start talking about emotions. And I love it because it's like, I'm like, all right, let me see if I can like overcome the eyes glazing over. So if we look at it biologically, what is the purpose of emotions? So if you're looking at it at the brain, like the bottom, we have like a display of the brain using our hand. We've got the spinal cord, we've got the brain up here. So like down here is breathing and heart rate, and right here in the middle is like emotions, and then right here is where your thoughts are. So if you actually look at the structure of the brain, emotions are right in the middle. They're actually more important in some ways than the thoughts themselves, right? And so they motivate us to get things done, right? So if you don't believe me, if in school you happen to be a procrastinator, let's go back to the days of school. And we know we have a paper to write and we have 2 weeks. It goes from 2 weeks to a week to 5 days to 3 days to, oh shoot, it's the night before. What drives you to finally do that paper? Anxiety, right? That stress, that anxiety intensifies to the point where you can't stand it anymore and you go do the thing, right? So if you understand things like sadness, depression tend to be focused in the past, they tend to slow you down, right? Slow you down. So if something bad happens to you, you slow down, stay in your home to like think through what went wrong, how can I fix it, right? So that's depression, that's sadness. Anxiety, what is that? It's looking to the future. Something bad is going to happen. Like if I don't get this paper done, right?
Yep.
Um, and it speeds you up. So that's not even all the emotions, but that's just two of them, right? And so if you understand what their purpose is, then you tap into it to then drive you to do the thing that you need to do. So that's step one. Mark, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
No, that's powerful. I mean, and I think you're so right on. I mean, a lot of the guys that we work with, there is that understandable skepticism about the
Mm-hmm.
emotional world. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of guys have been beat down as if them thinking logically or solving problems is somehow this deficit or
Mm-hmm.
this defect that they have to fix. And I know the beauty is we can affirm those qualities, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just one side of the coin, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think most of us as guys, even if we lean that direction, still
Mm-hmm.
think that the most beautiful things in life are like, you know, I don't know, the matters of the heart, right? I mean, we're
Mm-hmm.
working our butts off because we love our families
Yeah.
and we love our wife, our kids, and the stuff that life is worth living for,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the emotional world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think the way you boil it down like that, just so brilliantly, is even if we think we operate on this logical level and we're not ruled by emotions,
Mm-hmm.
the truth is those impulses in our nervous system are firing most of the time, one way or the other. And if you're not motivated by mission or purpose
Mm-hmm.
or love or gratitude, you're probably going to be motivated by fear or shame,
That's big. That's
right?
big.
There's
And
it's
those are
so
emotions. Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not
Mm-hmm.
just this touchy-feely stuff. It's literally like these electrical impulses we feel in our body. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really important information, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, with our ancestors, I joke about this with clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
With our ancestors, like the one guy who like walked through life, out of the cave to go hunting, and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have emotions. I'm
Yeah.
superior, I'm
Yeah.
above all that.
Yeah.
Then you see the saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you need fear. You need fear
You
right
need some
now
fear.
because
Yeah.
it's not just fear, it's adrenaline, the pupils dilate, the
Right.
blood rushes to the extremities to run or fight.
Yeah.
Thank God for emotion.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like literally, right? I mean, so yeah, we're not gonna try to turn our guy clients into like completely emotional wrecks and that's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
they do and like no, it's okay to be a
Yeah.
guy, but let's be honest, do need to stretch ourselves
Yeah.
a little bit and just master it, understand
Oh
and
yeah.
master this stuff because why would you become an expert in your business and understand like how to be really good at what you do and how you help and serve the world through your products or services,
Mm-hmm.
but then this huge part of your life, these
Mm-hmm.
underlying currents that like
Mm-hmm.
demotivate you, motivate you,
Mm-hmm.
make you retreat or make you go forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's important stuff to know. And I think the last thing I'd say is I think I heard this from one of my clients once, and I'm sure he heard it from someone else. But
Mm-hmm.
um, this idea that emotions make good servants,
Mm-hmm.
but horrible masters, right? So we don't want
Mm.
our emotions to rule
That's
us.
good.
We need that
Mm-hmm.
neocortex to be firing, uh,
Yeah.
to think logically.
Mm-hmm.
But if we suppress our emotions and pretend they're not there and don't understand them, it is
Mm-hmm.
going to mess us up, and it's going to come out sideways, and it's going to
Mm-hmm.
eventually catch up with us. And I think a lot of guys that we work with just put their head down, they work hard, they grind it out,
Mm-hmm.
and that gets them pretty far for a long time
Yeah.
until it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's when
Exactly.
they go to, escapethecagenow.com and they're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
all right, you're going to be one of those. I don't like therapy, but maybe I could see you guys because I think you kind of get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's my initial
That's so
reaction.
good.
But
Well, and if I could bounce off one thing that you said that I thought was so good that I want to highlight is the emotions being it's either going to be your servant or it's going to be your master. Because I was so passionate about addictions and helping guys around the field of addictions, I read this big meta-analysis paper. If you're listening and you don't know what a meta-analysis paper is basically you have all these research studies that are happening all over the world. And so someone says, okay, I'm going to write a paper about all the papers, right? And so there was a meta-analysis that was written around addiction. And so they brought in all the best research and said, okay, here are our findings around the best research. And they said for addictions, oftentimes people think that the addiction started like if you're drinking alcohol, for instance, if you struggle with alcohol and you have a craving at 7 p.m. on a Thursday night, you're like, I don't want to drink, I don't want to drink, I don't want to drink, and then you go and you drink, right? You're like, okay, that urge, that addictive pattern started Thursday night at 6 or 7, whatever time I said.
Yeah.
But they said that's not when it started. It started Sunday when you got in a fight with your wife. And then Monday rolls around and your boss yells at you or an employee quits, right? Wednesday, there's crazy traffic. Thursday, you just don't feel like doing anything. You're like, I just want to like curl up in a ball and not do anything. And suddenly around 6 or 7 o'clock, you have the urge and you're like, oh, it started at 6 or 7 on Thursday. That's not when it started. It started Sunday due to all the emotions, the stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm, all those things. Right. So I love that. You're either going to utilize the emotion or it's going to take you over. I've got two other thoughts on motivation. And then I'd love to hear since I'm so interested in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, you're so interested in EMDR. What do you think about me doing the other 2 points and then moving to EMDR and seeing your perspective on it?
I'd
Would that
love,
be
yeah,
cool?
that sounds
Cool.
amazing, Zach. Bring it on.
Okay, so first was emotion. So if you're taking notes or if you're a note taker out there and you're writing this down, so where do I get motivation from? Number one, we said emotions. Number two, we have intrinsic or extrinsic motivation, right? It's either internal or external, right? And so, for instance, what are examples of external motivation? It can be something like, you mentioned the Jocko Willink podcast, right?
Right.
So many guys love that show, and Jocko's gonna be like, you need to work out, you need to be buff, you need to be, whatever, like hardworking and all these things. And so you hear that, and what that translate in cognitive behavioral therapy world is shoulds, right? We get told what we should be doing, right? And so we have others tell us what we need to do from the outside world. And so this can be from your faith, from your religion. This can be from culture. This can be from family. So all these shoulds can come at us from the outside world, right? And they're not necessarily positive or negative, but external motivation isn't necessarily the best motivation force. How do we know that? Because we say all the things we should do, but then we don't do them, right? So how do we get motivated? Intrinsic motivation. Okay. So we need to find internally what we actually care about. So something called core beliefs. Core values is what I meant to say. Core beliefs is another thing. Core values. So finding what we actually value underneath the surface. If you go online, you type in core values. James Clear has a website where he has a list of core values that's really great. So finding what you actually care about in your life, not what you should care about, but what you actually care about will help to take those values and motivate you forward. So just as a quick example, working out can be hard for me. Like sometimes it's like, oh, I just can't get into the gym. And I'm like, it's so frustrating. And so I figured out a long time ago that if I find a guy to go work out with, to connect with, to bond with, I'm more likely to go and work out. So what is that? Well, I have a core value of connection, right? Of community. What do you know? The therapist wants to hang with people, right? And so I find guys that I can connect with. And so I get to gain something, right? I get to gain connection with another person, right? And that's the thing that motivates me to go to the gym, right? And so if you're looking to get motivations, it can be a variety of things. It can be family, faith, community, achievement, right? Hard work. You can have all these different core values and you use those. You say, how can I apply this to the goal I'm setting for myself? And then that's the fuel in the engine that gets you moving. Any thoughts on that, Mark?
No, that's powerful. I mean, because I'm thinking like I'm one of those guys who has a love-hate relationship with Jocko because because it's like there's part of me as a guy just like deeply admires his mentality. But it makes me curious. I wonder if you dialed in and interviewed him flip the roles and you were interviewing Jocko,
Mm-hmm.
um, I bet we'd uncover some core values
Mm-hmm.
that lead
Mm-hmm.
him to get up at 4:30 in the morning,
That's good.
take a picture
Mm-hmm.
of that watch, right? And so there can be a mentality of just get it done no matter how you feel, and
Mm-hmm.
that can be helpful for some people, but not everyone's wired the same way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so willpower is a tricky thing. I mean, you ask someone to define what willpower is.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of these nebulous things. It's hard to put into words. It's like, well, I just force myself to do it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
but then, like as you so beautifully said, like what is the cause and effect leading up to
Mm-hmm.
that moment, and what are the beliefs that underlie that supposed willpower?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, you need look no further than New Year's resolutions to see the
Exactly.
effectiveness of willpower, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
part of me, this might be a whole different podcast. Part of me wonders if maybe the sweet spot is if you replace the shoulds with a kind of a different version of a should. Is like I
Mm-hmm.
want to do
Mm-hmm.
this because it's aligned
Mm-hmm.
with my purpose in life, who I
Mm-hmm.
want to be
Mm-hmm.
as a man, what I
Mm-hmm.
want to achieve
Mm-hmm.
according to my principles and values. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
defines the why.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's some kind of like healthy shoulds and accountability that overlap with that
Mm-hmm.
space,
Mm-hmm.
then it seems like maybe there's like a back to motivation, right? Back to our
Mm-hmm.
topic for today is there might be a feeling of excitement. There
Mm-hmm.
might be a feeling of purpose, of love when we imagine the people we're taking care of or we're striving to help in
Mm-hmm.
life. Because if it's just the should,
Mm-hmm.
then that could be guilt and shame being the motivator undetected,
100%.
whether
Mm-hmm.
we like to
Mm-hmm.
admit it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it can work for a while, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
seem to have that. Well, tell me in your experience, Zach. I would wonder if it maybe doesn't have the staying power that the core values have.
Yeah, and I think that's so well said because it's very nuanced, right? Because we can see in the New Year's resolutions, you get pumped up, you watch a video, we keep referencing Jocko Willink. If you don't know who that is, it's
Yeah,
a guy that I believe he was a Navy SEAL
yeah, yeah,
and really tough, went into the Middle East to fight in the Middle East, came back, and now he has this big podcast on, things like motivation, things
yeah,
like
yeah.
meaning and purpose, right? And so just in case you haven't heard of him before, um, and so watching a video like that is that external motivation. Yeah, maybe it does get you in the gym for a week, or maybe it does get you starting your business for a week or whatever. But does it help you to last in the long term? And that's exactly what you were talking about, Mark, right? So it's does it is the things that you're finding to motivate you helping you in the short term or in the medium to long term. And so if you're looking for things that are going to help you in the medium to long term, intrinsic motivation tends to be the way to go. I think that's awesome. All right, point number 3. So this is my
Yeah.
last one. Then we'll
Let's
turn
hear
it
it.
over to you and see, like, from a EMDR perspective, because I'd love to hear that. You might need to tell people what EMDR stands
Yeah, good
for.
point.
But last thing I think we can often engage in is something called all or nothing thinking. It's also called black or white thinking, right? So if it's something like working out, it's really easy to tell myself, oh, if I'm not working out for an hour, it's not really a workout. Because I have it in my head that like an hour is the time you're supposed to do it, right? Well, I either need to work out every day or not work out at all. Like, and maybe logically we know that that's not true, but emotionally and in practice it becomes true. Like if I can't do the full thing, it's not even worth it, right? And so oftentimes when I'm goal setting with my clients, we actually do what I call starting stupid easy. Let's start stupid easy,
Yep.
right? And so sometimes it is, hey, I had one client, now that I'm thinking about it, who really wanted to work out, right? And so we were like, okay, let's set an easy goal. Let's do 30 minutes, 3 days a week. That feels easy. He's like, yeah, that's easy. Comes back the next week. Hey, did you do it? Nope. Okay, let's make it easier. Okay, let's do 2 days, 15 minutes. Comes back the following week. Did you do it? Nope. Okay, let's make it really easy. 1 day for 5 minutes. Comes back the next week. Did you do it? Nope. Okay. What you need to do is get your clothes on, get in the car, drive to the gym, walk into the gym, turn around, walk out of the gym. And that was the goal, right? And we say, what is the point of that? Does that actually work? That seems kind of dumb. What does that actually do? Well, there's a law in physics, right? That an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion. So the difficult part is to move from at rest into motion, right?
Yep.
And so what do you know? We set this goal. This guy drives to the gym, walks in, asks himself, he had the option to work out or not. He said, you know, I could walk on the treadmill for 15 minutes.
Right.
What do you know? He actually did it, right? So he got into motion. So the last point, we're talking about emotions, we're talking about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. But the last thing is that like sometimes we set the bar too high for ourselves. And we say, I should, getting back to those shoulds, we should on ourselves, getting back to the should. I should be able to do this. Sometimes we can't, like we just can't. And so for that guy, he just couldn't get into the gym and do it. And so it's like, hey, then just the goal is just to walk into the gym. And so if you're struggling with motivation, these are the kinds of things, the kind of strategies that you can utilize. Did you have any thoughts on the all or nothing thinking?
I think that's so powerful, Zach. I mean, it's that can just sabotage our plans. And a lot of our clients too are guys with perfectionistic tendencies, and that fear of failure drives them towards success. It is funny, right? Because like you can set these lofty goals, and then instead of, I tell clients sometimes who are like sports fans, I'm like, 300 batting average, just hitting 3 out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame. If they're a baseball fan. But you shoot 50% from the court. It's pretty good field goal percentage for a basketball player.
Yeah.
In the NBA.
Yeah.
So it's this sense that if you, there are these guys who like they're having success, like he's saying, overcoming some bad habit, and they've made it 29 days, and then they slip up on day 30. And the all or nothing thinking drives them down into this shame spiral. And I know you're an expert on that cycle with the guys that you've worked with counseling and coaching. But that lie, that whisper in our ear, in our mind is you're a failure. It's all for nothing. See, you can never keep it up. And it's just a completely different mindset when I encourage, or you encourage a guy and be like, dude, okay, 29 out of 30 days, you did this?
Yeah.
Dude, your average is like off the charts. Like if this can be just a bump in the road, a speed bump, and you get back on track tomorrow, dude, just keep putting it together. Like keep moving forward. And that's, sometimes where, we work with all kinds of guys, all kinds of backgrounds but for guys who lean on their faith, that can be an asset in that moment too, to be like, yeah, I'm kind of messed up. Yeah, I've got a lot of work to do, but I could also be loved. I could also be forgiven. I can also have a purpose. And so I don't have to stay in that pit, right? I can be honest enough to see the good and the bad within me, and take an honest look at myself, and then keep taking that step forward, right? Not giving up, and just, I guess the last thing I'd say about it is, I sometimes tell guys, the truth, just life itself is hard enough. It's stressful enough. Just real things are enough to contend with.
Yeah.
And if half of our anxiety and our stress and our shame is built on half truths or downright lies, what a waste of what a tragedy. It's just like we only have so much time and energy and emotion to give. And if we have the courage to get some support and to analyze that and put the magnifying glass up to our lives and be like, wow, my beliefs are really off. like, like I tell people this is what I believe, but my behavior indicates otherwise. And I guess I've got to heal this thing up, or I've got to use this approach to kind of challenge my thinking and kind of get things back on track. So, yeah, that I guess that's what it sparked for me when you were talking about.
Oh yeah, that's so good. And like even as men, we were talking about earlier, like I don't want to talk about emotions. I want to talk about logic. So even our logic stinks. Like just like you said, you can go 20, like if you feel like you're struggling with a certain activity, a certain behavior, a certain substance, and you go 29 days and then you have that one day off, right? That maybe you made a mistake, right? It's literally, if you look at the batting average, it's like you're in the 90th percentile. Like you're doing good. Are you perfect? No. Like, so let's keep progressing. Let's keep getting better. Progress over perfection, right? So let's keep getting better over time. And but oftentimes we don't engage in nuance. We engage in that all or nothing thinking. Because I slipped up, I'm a failure, right? And that's where the brain goes. So even if you don't want to talk about emotions, let's talk about your logic. Oftentimes our logic stinks too. So I love it. That's so great. Well,
Wait,
Mark,
wait,
could you?
Zach, what are you
Yeah,
trying to say? Are you saying my logic stinks?
I'm saying us other than you, everyone else but your
Okay.
logic. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Everyone but your logic really stinks.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So could you, Mark, could you tell us a little bit about EMDR therapy? What is that, and
Yeah.
how does EMDR view motivation?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. It's like the worst branding ever to call a new therapy like a four-letter acronym.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
uh, EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Hmm.
And at first it sounds like hocus pocus because it's like it kind of looks like hypnosis. The eyes are moving. What's going
Hmm.
on?
Hmm.
But it's been around for over 30 years. It's a highly researched approach to became famous for curing PTSD. But
Hmm.
then they started to soon realize it became effective for anxiety and
Hmm.
depression, lots of different issues. Um, but the way I like to think about it is it's a therapy. It's that gets the truth from the head to the heart,
Hmm.
and because we all have that disconnect, right? I mean,
Hmm.
we might know something's true, but we don't feel it in our gut,
Hmm.
in our heart, in our bones. Like it's
Hmm.
hard to take it in. Um,
Hmm.
it could be a guy who's like, I know logically my wife loves me. How
Hmm.
come I don't feel it?
Yeah.
And just like you talked about, those addiction patterns don't start that night. They might start earlier in the day or earlier that
Hmm.
week. Take
Hmm.
that idea, and
Hmm.
it might have started 5 years ago
Hmm.
when something in their brain kind of flipped. And
Hmm.
even though they deal with most things well, something happened that overwhelmed the system,
Yeah.
and the brain stored something in the wrong place.
Hmm.
And it becomes a sensitive spot. It becomes one of those things that a guy wants to avoid.
Hmm.
It becomes a experience that when they talk about it, when they think about it, they get an emotional charge, and maybe don't feel so good about themselves. And most people, even with good childhoods and good parents, even if we're blessed to have that, typically we accumulate a handful of experiences that rise to the level of, even if it's not a big T trauma, it was traumatic enough where the brain stuck it in the wrong place, and it hasn't healed. And so
Hmm.
without even knowing it, we end up living our lives doing everything possible to avoid any reminder of that thing.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
could be something as simple as, getting bullied in school, making
Hmm.
you feel like you're worthless,
Yeah.
and and then maybe you start training jujitsu like we have, and then maybe
Hmm.
you rock it in
Hmm.
business, and
Hmm.
maybe you think your life's pretty great, but deep down inside, there's something your wife says or something that happens at work, and you feel like
Hmm.
that little kid in two
Hmm.
seconds, and you don't want to admit
Hmm.
it to anyone, but you feel like you're still that worthless kid.
Hmm.
For one guy, it's I'm worthless. For another guy, it's I'm a failure.
Hmm.
For another guy, it's I'm not safe. For another guy, it's I'm out of control. So there's actually some cool overlap between CBT, which I know
Hmm.
you're rocking right now, and
Hmm.
the EMDR, because there's that
Hmm.
shared focus on like what do we really believe, and where do those beliefs come from?
Hmm.
And so I guess a long story short is EMDR is kind of like an emotional surgery. It's kind of where therapy and science meet in a way where we're identifying targets.
Hmm.
So maybe
Hmm.
Jocko would like that. It's like
Maybe you would.
it's a battle plan. We create a battle plan. We figure out basically, we get to know the guys first and build some trust, but
Hmm.
eventually it's good to be able to be real, to have
Hmm.
someone to be real with, and
Hmm.
that we identify together what is their core insecurity that's getting them stuck. That
Hmm.
either they're re-experiencing and it's painful, or they don't experience because they're doing everything possible to avoid that feeling.
Wow. Yeah.
And
And so how would EMDR apply to motivation?
yeah, so I mean, coming full circle, if you're someone who's struggling with a feeling of I'm worthless, for example,
Hmm.
then there might be plenty of opportunities in life that you
Hmm.
turn down because it feels like, oh, that doesn't feel safe because if I do that, people are going to see I'm a big failure or not good
Hmm.
enough. and so they miss out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be that you have a loving wife, and for whatever reason, something about the way that you talk about hard things trips you up, like it does for a lot of couples. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you just feel these intense emotions, and it feels like I got to get out of here. Like I can't
Mm-hmm.
hang in this conversation because it's too overwhelming. And so, like you said, someone who 90% of people would think is this stable, solid rock of a person, logical,
Mm-hmm.
solution focused, there are these pockets of their life where the insecurity can sabotage their motivation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and then the consequence too is sometimes this undealt with stuff just builds up, builds up, builds up,
Mm-hmm.
and then it leads to this kind of numbness or compassion fatigue, like where
Mm-hmm.
you're not feeling like yourself because you're not feeling all your emotions, like, and
Mm-hmm.
so you find a way to numb out, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some of
Mm-hmm.
these vices, some of these habits that's very easy to fall into. Um, but I think a lot of it depends on the personality of the client, right? So
Yeah.
if a guy calls line counseling and he says, "I
Mm-hmm.
need some help for motivation,"
Mm-hmm.
our scheduling coordinator is going to be like, "Well, do you want to do some like emotional surgery on your past, or
Yeah.
do you want to be like more present and future focused, like
Yeah.
knocking out what are my beliefs and how do I challenge them in real time?"
Mm-hmm.
There's different approaches, and I think we're a great team in that regard because we can see both sides of it, and we can also kind of build each other up, and
Mm-hmm.
inform each other's approaches. But but yeah, I mean, I could go on and on for EMDR.
Yeah.
It's
So it
awesome,
sound
but
yeah, it sounds like, EMDR is, if it's talking about motivation, it's like looking into the past and saying like what's happened that's demotivating you. And it sounds kind of similar to in cognitive behavioral therapy, we have core beliefs.
yeah,
Earlier I said core values and I got it mixed with
yeah,
core beliefs. Now I'm saying core beliefs and I mean core beliefs, but essentially this thing that you tell yourself, things like I'm unlovable or I'm worthless or unworthy. Like a lot of us have negative beliefs that we hold on to that can be demotivating because it starts like, core beliefs are like kind of at the center and then it affects everything else. Like if you believe that you're unlovable, what's the chances of you actually going and asking out this girl you're attracted to, or what's the chances of you reaching out and trying to connect with friends? If you think you're a failure, if you're like that's a core belief, then like what are the chances that you start a business, right?
right.
So like do you have like a practical thing you give to people around like, okay, I'm sitting on the couch, I can't get motivated, or maybe I'm successful in this area over here, but I just can't get started on this thing over here. So I'm successful in business, but my family life, I just can't bring myself to
Yeah.
like hang with the family. Like, what is the thing that you just like give to someone to help them get off their butt and start doing the thing?
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably say schedule something with Zach.
I'll
Because
berate you until you do
no, I mean,
it.
we're different our styles a little bit, but I mean, I'd probably prep my client for the long haul and be like, yeah, we could do some practical stuff now, but like we're just gonna dissect your life for the next 3 months, and we're gonna heal those insecurities
Yeah.
so that next time you do that hard thing that used to stir up that old feeling,
Mm.
you don't feel that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That instantaneous connection between the negative belief and the way it
Mm-hmm.
makes your body feel to
Mm-hmm.
make you run away or freeze or fight.
Mm-hmm.
um, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that surgery. And if someone's like, I don't know if I'm up for that. It's just not my style. I've got a presentation next week, and
Yeah.
I really need some practical skills. I'd be like, okay, I can get my book here. I can pull out the James Clear Atomic Habits stuff, which
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Funny anecdote. I was at the Dave Ramsey Entre Leadership Summit
Mm-hmm.
last year,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I got to talk with James Clear a little bit.
Oh,
And
cool.
and I
Yeah.
asked him. I said, I basically asked him like, "Your book's so awesome on helping
Mm-hmm.
motivate people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we even need therapists?" It sounded kind of like afterwards. I felt bad. It was kind of like a trick question because
Yeah.
what's he gonna say? Like, yes, like we don't need any therapists or counselors.
How did he answer?
He kind of he had to pause for a little bit
He
on
was like, I
stage.
got to be careful with what I
Yeah, yeah.
say.
I mean, he took the implicit compliment that his work
Mhm.
is really good, and I think
Mhm.
he has some original ideas that also piggybacks on CBT stuff, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Mhm.
And but the same idea, put don't
Mhm.
say I'm going to run 10 miles. Say my only goal is to put my shoes on,
Yeah. Mhm.
and take it
Mhm.
from there. Um,
Mhm.
but he
Mhm.
basically said that he was really happy that those ideas were helpful for people and
Mhm.
improved their life a lot.
Mhm.
But he was also very quick to say after he thought about it, like, no, I by no means consider myself an expert at being a counselor or a therapist.
Yeah, yeah.
They have their place, that there's a need for that. I wouldn't presume to think that somehow my book, you know,
Mhm.
has banished these things as
Yeah.
unnecessary. But
Yeah.
I think that's where the self-help world and the world of therapy connect.
Mhm.
And I think back full circle to your idea about going to the gym. I mean,
Mhm.
that's another cool model for, I think, counseling in a way.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
it's like, it's a professional relationship, but it's also two guys being able to talk about real stuff and for us to
Mhm.
encourage guys. And
Mhm.
it might not be a physical workout at the gym, but it's kind of that emotional,
Mhm.
strategic,
Mhm.
cognitive workout.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we can kind of be a coach to help guys work through that, and maybe having that one extra caring person who's going to have a nice balance, hopefully,
Yeah,
between
yeah.
a subtle kick in the butt but also some understanding and
Mhm.
encouragement. Um, that's all some guys need to just like unleash and like get the
Mhm.
once the ball starts rolling, there's momentum, and
Yeah.
that gets exciting when you see that change start happening.
That's so good. Well, I think that's all I had on motivation. Anything you had to add, or are you pretty happy on your end?
No, as always, Zach, great conversation, and I guess I'd only say it, if you're still listening to this point, um, yeah, I mean, just know that besides all the great resources out there that are free and available, if you are looking for someone to talk to, yeah, check out escapethecagenow.com, or go to the link in the description box, and we'd be happy to do a free Zoom or phone chat, just see if it's a good fit, and go from there.
Let's do it.
All
Thanks,
right.
Mark. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody, for listening. We'll see
Yeah.
everybody. Bye.